Hey guys, this is Kyle and Travis, and we're with Beyond Bipolar blog. So today is December 29th, and we wanted to make this pretty important video about my brother's mental health update. So unfortunately, my brother, as you might have seen before, he actually has been hospitalized for maybe about a day and a half on Christmas Eve to a little bit more than a half of a day on Christmas. And we'll describe a little bit more about that. And we feel like it's important to be transparent, honest, and real with you all, because in the end, this is a mental health channel, and we truly believe that if people are more honest and look at themselves honestly, that maybe we can help change and save other people's lives, especially for those struggling with mental health issues. Now, Christmas and the holidays seem to be pretty difficult, not just on us, but on everyone. So we'll dive a little bit deep about that, and we'll start with a post that apparently was written by my brother, and I'll have him read it.
December 24th at 9:40 p.m. I wrote this to a close Korean friend of mine. I like her, but she is not interested in dating me. She lives in Korea, but she is willing to at least hear me out. This is my deep-seated problem. I wanted to address this to a therapist, but the intake only involved distracting, doing something I want to feel fulfilled, not distracted. I'm lonely and happy, and right now my family can't help me. I just don't know what to do about it because most of my friends are cats, and my native Korean ex was way before my introduction to the cat community. She was special, so special I made the biggest mistake I've ever making money following my stupid talents. I made $4,000 and it's pointless to me because I am not happy by myself. I'm going to end up killing myself because of this deep-seated issue. No one wants to help me address this, and that is the problem. My family doesn't understand me. How can they? They cannot provide what I want. I love them, but sometimes I wish I spoke my language to be able to communicate Korean to my birth family, marry a native Korean girl, live the culture, but I'm disabled and forced to live a low life because I can't help myself. My meds are $1,900 a month, and I need them as much as I need to build this emptiness. People tell me to move on, not helping. People tell me to not be so picky. But if I'm remotely thinking I want to hang myself, the issue needs to be addressed. Your suicidal friend Trav, soon to be dead.
So this was written, and my brother and I, this was actually written. Could you describe who this Miso person is?
Miso is just a friend of mine that I actually befriended through someone else. It was a casual friendship.
I think I talked to her a little bit.
I've been talking to her for a couple of years now. So I was actually the first person to reach out to her. I didn't really have anyone else to talk to since it was like pretty late, almost 10 o'clock at night. But I wrote, I have bipolar, disabled, living with dad. I can't move to Korea, and I want a native Korean girlfriend again. Meds are $1,900 a month. I'm not insured there. I never worked full time. It'd be tough there. It's like I'm forced to pretend to be happy, but here I am feeling lonesome because my therapist tells me to distract from my passions, but it's not helping, especially at night. I'm ready to give up my passion so I can be with someone. I just had the intake, and I don't think the therapist is willing to go this deep, but this is why I'm unhappy. My feelings are unresolved. I love my adoptive family, but I want to be with someone else where I can be happy.
So basically, my brother wrote, tends to be at night where my brother actually struggles the most, and it's difficult for me because I'm trying to work on something, and I guess we have very different philosophies. I guess I feel like if you're feeling not that good, usually my philosophy is, my usual reaction is immediately anger, and I guess I'll describe what I wrote is, and this is kind of where Travis and I kind of butted heads, and in the end, I don't know who's right or wrong, but in the end, everyone has a different perspective, and I think through this, it's a lesson. So I wrote, the problem I see is you continuously see yourself as a victim, saying you're bipolar, this and that, and having no chances in love, which is a lie. You have people who actually want to date you, but you aren't interested in them, and you refuse to take responsibility for it. Sorry for the tough love, but if you really want to commit suicide, I'm not going to stop you. I'm kind of sick of the negative vibes from you, honestly. It's good to voice your problems when need be, but when you refuse to take any action, that is just beating a dead corpse, which I want to sometimes do to you at this point. It's annoying. It gets really old. Probably other people are better at hearing you constantly bitch than me. I'm telling you, nothing in life is easy or free. It takes work. It takes effort. How the fuck can you want to get someone if you don't continuously strive to be better for yourself and others so that maybe you can attract a person you want. Being a disabled man who doesn't work, who has bipolar and suicidality is a tough sell. Who would want to date someone like that? You're a miserable, sad soul that expects other people to do the work for you, and it sucks the energy out of the entire room that no one else wants to be friends with us or respect us. This probably makes you feel worse about yourself, but it kind of is the truth. It will do you better to change and put effort in yourself, but you don't. It's not enough, so you'll be back to drowning in the well. Expect people to pull you out of it and then falling with you. You've been given gifts, and it upsets me. You just don't continue to force yourself to use it and work hard to become something so maybe you can find the love you desire. That to me is the only answer, the tough answer, but you refuse to accept it. So whether I was right or wrong, or whether Travis is right or wrong, it's his own feelings and needs to be addressed. I think with me, originally, I felt like it's about pushing yourself, trying to be better, but in the end, I think rather than that, and I was looking at a post about when to give up kind of the dream, and they said that, and it was actually good advice. So this was about someone about success, and this was actually probably the most, actually, I think I'll actually read this last, so we'll move on from there. So after this, probably around like maybe 10:40, I heard somebody, my dad was yelling at me downstairs to come downstairs, and he was yelling at me that someone was pounding on the door. I actually didn't know what was happening at all. I mean, I wrote this post, and I read this post like maybe a little bit ago prior to that, maybe 20 minutes ago, and I wasn't expecting anyone to come here. And the thing is, when I opened the door, it turned out to be 4 different cops. One was a lady, one was a young person around my age, another was a trainee who was the one who ended up talking to my brother, and the other one was kind of the one that has actually been watching us for a while, that he's seen some posts about guns or something like that. But anyway, I let them in. My initial reaction was at first surprise, and then it was kind of anger that it got this far, but in the end something had to be done. I said they could come in. I had them go in the bedroom and end up talking to my brother, and maybe you can describe what kind of happened there if you can remember it, because I ended up leaving the room partly.
Well, just basically, just to sum things up, he wanted me to read the message on what I've been going through, and after I read the message, one of the cops suggested I need to go talk to someone like a therapist, but then he mentioned the hospitalization's the best thing. I was very, very reluctant to go because I was really, really tired anyway. I still didn't want to go, having pretty much those thoughts up to the chance where I was actually in the hospital and finally able to get to sleep. Until that point, while in the hospital, being admitted, that's how far it went, and I didn't want to be there. But
he felt like you really needed it, and you're kind of afraid because you thought that Dad would be mad that you'd be not.
Personally, I thought Kyle was going to be mad because
I
didn't think he wanted to drive me up there.
But the thing is, I decided to drive him up there because I said I offered it, because the younger cop who was the trainee who was actually talking to my brother, actually very. I want to also mention, I know there's a lot of bad news going on with cops, but these cops in Hastings are in Washington County are really good. I mean, we end up speaking to him outside after, but anyway, he was talking to my brother, and he was actually very considerate. I mean, I was pissed, even though I talk about mental health and all that and kind of promote it. In the end, I guess I lose my temper, especially when it hits home. And I kind of even have animosity, which I'll also read another of my posts prior. But anyway, the cop suggested that he needs to go to the hospital, and I said, fine, I'll take him. And I end up taking him up there. But anyway, throughout that, this probably took like maybe like 40 minutes, but the Hmong cop wanted to talk to me outside, and he pretty much kind of suggested that I tell my brother that I'm not angry, along with the female cop who apparently has a master's in psychology. So she really knew how to handle it. But in the end, they gave us a Washington County card for a crisis line. So rather than Facebook, hopefully my brother doesn't need to use Facebook. And honestly, I don't know who was the person who actually ended up calling the cops on us. I'm actually not exactly that mad, because in the end, I guess you only could take so far, and it just proves something had to happen. So after, 2017 was your last hospitalization?
4.5, 5 years ago.
So 4.5, 5 years ago, and it just ended up unraveling. And whether it's adoptee issues or whether it's his bipolar or not, Could you describe a little bit about the holidays and how you've been feeling in the constant?
If you guys read that message that I actually spoke about earlier, it kind of suggests to what had happened like 6 years ago. I had a lady I was going to marry. She came here for 2 months and stayed. She was from Korea, and 2 months later, my parents and brother decided it would be best to let her go and go back to Korea. The truth is, it's been stuck with me for some years now, and that was in 2016 of April, and soon it's going to be like almost 6 years total. But anyways, this has been really grinding on me, and the fact that though in the beginning, you know, before I was hospitalized and realizing what happened after I had a med adjustment, that I really was not feeling well, and the fact in the matter, I was wearing rose-colored glasses, that I actually felt I was fine, and it was just my family not letting me do what I really wanted to do with my life, which was to marry this girl, and that was my biggest regret, and I've been grinding and grinding and grinding for the past month. The holidays are supposed to be special, where you're supposed to be with your loved ones, and I feel if I had a special loved one, which is my girlfriend, things would have been fine. Although, to be honest with you, after being on the meds, the lamictal increase, I have not experienced as much isolation, loneliness, despair, regret, depression. I've actually feel I don't know if it's appropriate to say it masks the problem, but I definitely don't think about it as much as before. And let alone the holidays are pretty much over. Maybe New Year's will come, but who knows? I think I'm doing much better.
I was wondering about the lethargy and lack of motivation, and could you explain why it's so hard to start drawing
Another
and
thing
stuff
with
for art?
December is not only was the
roadblock,
only reason why I was
artist
regretting
block.
so much was because I was having this severe artist block where I was just completely unmotivated to do art or music. And when I did art, specifically, I made $4,000 this past year, which is pretty good for a starving artist.
It's really good.
But I felt it wasn't worth it because I just was not satisfied after getting that money. And so this was probably because I had depression and I didn't really experience much joy doing it. But I would grind in the fact that my relationship could have made things work and I wouldn't be so lonesome. But the reality is I was still struggling with, even though I made $4,000 that month in particular in December, or right now, I've been struggling to keep myself busy and active in my passions. And like back in 2016 when I let her go, I said I was going to move on to my passions and I was okay letting her go. But then I realized once, you know, I was unable to do music, I was unable to do art. I wasn't motivated to do much of anything. I would just constantly complain or just sit and bitch constantly. But the truth of the matter of fact, it really affected my past relationship with this girl. Her name was Joanne. Sadly, she is married with a kid, so I guess we can dive into that in another topic. But regardless of that, I was really struggling following my passions, and the whole reason why I followed my passions is so I can make a living off of it, which I have made some money. But at the same time, when I was not able to continue pursuing it and wasn't getting much joy on it, I realized that maybe letting go of my ex was probably one of the worst mistakes I could ever done. Now, let alone my family wouldn't want to be witnesses for me to marry her. But the only reason why I was willing to give her up because I wanted to follow my passions. But then I was given that choice, and
At the time, you
haven't followed my passions, and then at the same time, I would just think about the regrets of the relationship and what could have been.
And even then, when you did give it up at the time, I don't think it really brutally made you feel that bad at the time, which is weird. So, can you also describe maybe how this gay person's been affecting actually? To be honest?
there's this gay person that he saw one of our Beyond Bipolar blog videos. He saw a Minnesota golfer shirt, and the guy reached out to me. He said he was gay, 79 years old, and wanted to see some nudes and give him a forehand massage. So my joke, I'm not intentionally trying to hurt the LGBTQ plus community, but there's this girl, CAD female, that was upset the fact that I was using this guy to maybe possibly take a photo with, so I can, or bring the person to my house. I could I can push that in front of my
So
parents.
let me ask you, even though you joke about it, how does it actually make you truly feel?
It makes me feel like crap. But
Because
why
that's all
that?
you can attract.
All I
So
can
I wanna
attract is
point
gay
out-
old dudes and gay old
I want to
women,
point
or
out this
straight
guy.
old women.
This guy pretty much came on to my brother. So I mean, if you're doing that and you don't get the message, I mean, it's all game. So if he's having fun, that's too bad. Maybe next time you shouldn't ask for a forehand massage and suck his cock. So I think it takes two to tango. I don't think anyone's. I think both of them are probably at fault.
Would you be
to
upset
honest.
if I brought that guy over and Dad saw
Be
that
kind of annoying. I don't really want. I think it's funny to keep at a distance, but not. You're mainly doing that just to fuck with the family, though, and
and
you're bitter about
I was
it.
bitter about the whole thing.
So let's describe actually Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, ironically, was pretty good. I mean, my mom came over, and so did my sister. It was pretty good, and we opened presents, had dinner, and went to church. But I guess you said you didn't have a very good time there because after that.
Well, that's not true.
when it-
My whole day was actually really good, and I
is
mentioned that. It's just that anywhere from 9 to 10 is a really hard time for me, and it's even worse when I wake up haphazardly at 2 to 4. I'm really, really tired.
you're
but
catastrophizing.
I'm also very, very suicidal, which, it got to the point after a month where I'm struggling waking up at this weird time that I'd feel pretty lonesome, and I'd say I want to kill myself or have thoughts of hanging myself with a belt. It got that bad. It was only an hour or two, but in the morning it really got that bad where I felt like that was my only desperation. So I do definitely spoke out in desperation on my Facebook prior to Christmas Eve, but then I guess that pushed it overboard where someone actually called in and called the cops.
That was
and
really
I was
weird
safe.
because even probably before that time, we were watching 90 Day Fiance and we're kind of laughing at that. Do you think that actually made you feel more bad about yourself?
Not
or
really. Just the trigger happens when I'm not when I'm keeping busy. Things are fine. It's just when I'm about to relax and cool things off, that's when I start feeling bad.
Where you start
because
thinking,
I can't distract myself.
Another Korean adoptee who actually is bipolar. I'm not going to name names. I'll keep the person anonymous. But I asked, do you think it was a med problem or whatever thing else? Because she was actually very fine during the holidays. Would you say whether it's a mask or not, do you think it actually was a med problem?
It was a med problem. I mean, I might say it masks things, but it definitely does make my life 10 times easier.
So let's fast forward now. We were driving to the hospital, and things were pretty fine. Can you describe some of your feelings of whatnot, and can you describe some of your feelings and when you got there?
Like I said, it was,
Why are you doing that?
Even at the hospital, I really hated it. I can tell you that when I was there, I was really, really tired.
That cream's good though. Why'd you pour that out?
Oh, it was cold. I thought it was old.
No,
So anyways, I was at the hospital. They wanted to
That's
admit
really
me,
hot.
but I really hated it and things
wait,
like
you're
that.
not. You have to redo it. You're not in the camera. So let's just redo this part.
So anyways,
So let's fast forward.
Kyle drove me there, and even when we were halfway there, 3/4, I felt like I wanted to go home. I hated it. Didn't feel comfortable. I was really, really tired. I already took my medications at 9:45. Likely it was like 10:40 to 11:30 when I finally got to the room, but the whole time there I was thinking, why the hell am I here? I don't want to be here. I'm fine.
So we got there. I dropped him off, and when I got there, I actually remember he wanted to lay down, and the nurse said he has to get up in order to check in. So right now I'll read another post when we got there, and these were my thoughts. On this Christmas Eve, 4 cops showed up at the house because someone called the cops for an alarming post on Facebook my brother wrote. I am not mad about the caller, although I told the cops I was mad at my brother and partly the reason why he didn't want to talk to my dad. And because we don't understand his missing his ex, love, and loneliness woes. My bro says he does not want to be here at the hospital. I don't want to be here either. In fact, I sometimes hate this role as caretaker, but there are no other options. It has been since 2017, Travis was first hospitalized, but this Christmas 2021, we are here again for the 8th time. The cops were very kind and understanding. They asked me if I was married. I said no, I can't live a normal life or leave this situation or find love because of my brother. I will forever have that burden. I will never have what is normal. And it's funny because the cop did ask if I was married. I don't know. I don't. It'd be very tricky, and it's always been tricky for us to have relationships in this house
and balancing the relationship with each other. Anyway, I guess I'm glad he is safe, but what can you do? If you bitch and wanting to kill yourself, the only option is the hospital. This will be the 8th time. It sucks, especially as during Christmas, but that is life, a very sad life, and I'm sad, well, maybe disappointed, but the reality, thank you for Washington County cops and handling this property, and whoever called, he is safe at least. I'm not filled with heavy emotion, but maybe at peace that through this crisis, someone else can take care of the problem and address it, because I sure can't, which I've been going on for past few months. I mentioned the social intake worker that we interview adoptees and gave her our card, and maybe he has unaware adoptee issues going on as well. He's going to stay the night and we'll check in tomorrow. Also, I'm glad knowing he is safe, and I told the girl thanks for what she does. So can you describe a little bit when you first checked in? I know you were talking to her when we went in that room.
I was really annoyed by everything. First, they had to check me in. So surprisingly, I was wearing these pants for like until the next morning, and they had strings in there.
You have to stand up.
No, I just was wearing strings in my pants. So surprisingly, he let me wear that until the next day, which I couldn't wear them anyway. But I wasn't going to hang myself at the moment. I really just wanted to sleep. So a psychiatrist came in, or maybe intake worker or whatever came in, female. She was just asking about my situation. I was just basically bitching about my ex, and
What'd she say?
and you know they didn't understand what caused me to go in. I didn't realize it, but I did say soon to be dead, and I didn't realize till I wrote that much later, and that's probably what alarmed people. So anyways, that's when it was there for an hour, and that's when Kyle.
Then I talked to her, and then I pretty much told her, she asked these questions, what's going on? I said he's missing his ex. And I waited in that room, actually, and my sister came, but since she only can let one person in, she came pretty much for no reason, and ended up going home anyway. So around that time, he ended up going to the hospital, and I think he went to sleep right away.
No, I
driving
didn't.
home around 2 a.m.
I didn't sleep till like
Oh, then
1 in the morning.
describe what happened then. I wasn't there.
It was really, I was really anxious. I knew I did not want to be there. I hate to say it, I was there for a day and a half, and I actually had to sleep in because I just do not sleep that well in the hospital. I mean, the only way I could sleep well is if I was drugged up enough, and I simply was on, you know, like I said, I'm on the highest dose of my antipsychotic, Lithium, 120 milligrams. I'm on one dose away from being on the highest dose on my mood stabilizer, Lamictal, which I'm at like 350, and I'm one dose away from being on the highest dose for an antidepressant, which is Imbalta. So imagine that. I'm definitely a hard case. I'm on a very high dosages. I'm on all 3 of my medications. So bear that in mind. I'm already getting used to the medications, and I'm still experiencing high anxiety. I did not want to be there. I finally was able to sleep. They had a TV and stuff, but maybe I slept 2-3 hours at most, but it wasn't to the point where it affected my mood. I think being able to talk next morning was definitely beneficial.
So describe the next day what happened, since I wasn't there. You didn't call, I don't know, maybe you did call Dad, or
so I stayed. They let me stay in the emergency room and didn't have me talk to a social worker or a psychiatrist till the next morning, which was really good. So I did get some sleep. I remember watching the parade on Channel 5 for Disney and just trying to bypass time. It wasn't until like maybe 8 o'clock where they sent in breakfast. It was pretty good, decent meal. Eggs, sausage, banana, and fruit was pretty nice. And then maybe an hour later, they had me see the psychiatrist, who's actually a Korean adoptee, surprisingly. That was my first psychiatrist. I asked him, he was wearing a mask, but I asked him what's his nationality. He said Korean. I asked, are you adopted? And he said, yeah. So that was a profound interaction. Though we didn't talk much, I felt like, I think his name was Taylor, but I'm not sure. But it was just interesting to know that I've been really delved deep in the cat community. I didn't know who this guy was. And he's never been to Hobon, which I told him that was the lady that I ended up having, had been taught lessons by the owner. And I just encouraged him to go there.
Did you ever tell us about our interviews at all, or?
No, I didn't mention it. But
why?
I don't know. Well, we discussed about all my options. Number one, he wanted to put me back on lithium, but I already told him that
you got off that.
I got off that primarily because I was gaining too much weight, and
it's poisonous to you.
And you know, I sweat a lot when I work out, and I was afraid to get myself back on that. He said it doesn't poison you per se, but if you're hydrated, you're fine. But I still didn't want to go that option. Another option he stated was to try Zyprexa
What is that?
or Seroquel, which are antipsychotics, which both didn't work for me. And then I admittedly said, let's try to up the Lamictal. Going up to 400 milligrams definitely made me feel worse, so I thought I'd go in between 300 and 400 and try a 350. So that's what we decided, and then after that, maybe an hour or two, I headed up to my room. There's only 4 patients there, surprisingly. I did see a person on Christmas Day, I believe, and the first one was the nurse. She actually talked to me a little bit about, since she was an immigrant, so we did talk quite a bit about me missing my ex and her experiences on what it's like to live in America.
I didn't know that.
And her culture with Romania and how important that was her to
Did
find
she wear a
culture here.
hijab?
No, she's Romanian. They're
Oh,
they're
I
Christian.
thought there was one wearing a hijab. Maybe not.
Nah, that was she wasn't a nurse. She was actually
What's the difference?
they have nurses and they have
The checking
they have
people.
techs.
What do the techs do?
Blood pressure, dinner,
Oh,
things like that. Just simple stuff.
I don't know if I
and
met the Romanian
activities.
then.
So I met the Romanian lady. We had definitely talked about the ex and how relationships can definitely
What'd
affect
she
your
tell
mood.
you?
She told me that I really need to explore my Korean roots and maybe learn Korean, things like that. I gave her a pretty good synopsis of my story, and then I ended up seeing the tech. I realized I'm 5'3". So first I seen the tech, then I saw the nurse,
and you're what 134
and I was
pounds
133. I think
with your wallet.
prior to that, I was maybe in 2017 165 possibly. But anyways, I saw the tech, saw the nurse, then I ended up seeing a social worker, which, you know, give or take wasn't that great. And then I saw one of the OT people, the occupational therapists. We didn't do much, but she did hand me some soap, some body wash, some conditioner, a toothbrush, and a goodies bag for Christmas, which is actually paid through the state or whatnot. And though I missed group, I did take a shower and I went on the exercise bike hour and 40 minutes, but the nurse had me get off because
Which
she thought I
one?
worked out too hard. The
Romanian did?
nurse.
Were you annoyed?
I wasn't annoyed, but she was kind of
Is
annoyed
she
with
our,
me being
is
on.
she our age?
Nah, she's way older, man.
Oh,
She's like 60, 70.
oh.
So anyways, that's my story in Christmas
So you were
Day.
there. That happened a lot. So none of the other. What else? You never talked to the other therapists that you saw, or
What other therapist?
I don't know, all the other people you saw. It seems like you saw a lot of people within that small time frame.
Christmas Day.
So in between, when did you give Dad a call? And what do you say to him?
I called them actually right after I got in contact with the psychiatrist, the CAD psychiatrist. I saw 2 psychiatrists. There was a CAD, and then he sent me to another psychiatrist.
Why did he do that?
Because they wanted to both talk about my situation and what I should be doing with my meds. So anyways, they switched Zymbalta 30 milligrams at night to totally Zymbalta 60 milligrams plus 30 milligrams in the morning. And then at night, which was increasing my Lamictal
Yeah.
to 350. So adding 50 more from 300, and my Latuda 120. And in the beginning, I take 2 pills of 25 milligrams of metoprolol, which is my blood pressure med in the morning. So anyways, after I contacted the
hold on a
first CAD
second.
psychiatrist, I actually called my dad and mom and told them the situation. And that's it.
So describe the meds that you're on, and can you go up higher, or is there a limit, or what was that thought that there's a limit on the highest dosage?
So I was
Maybe
really,
explain
really
that
nervous.
quick.
I really thought that since I'm on the highest dose of Latuda, and the Latuda is what helped prevent most of the SI, I thought that I had to switch to another med like Vraylar, and that was like the 1 out of 8 other antipsychotics I've tried, which was Latuda, Seroquel, Geodon, Risperdal, Abilify, Invega, Clozaril, Zyprexa. Those are 7 antipsychotics I tried in a year. And sadly, I haven't been on a drug for 2 years until I tried Lithium, which came in 2012, and I was really, really lucky for 2 years to be on meds, but that's another story. Anyways, so in the beginning, like I said, I was taking Zymbalta 60 milligrams in the morning, metoprolol 50 milligrams in the morning,
A fish oil and a multivitamin. At night I take
fish oil, and then I took 30 milligrams of Zymbalta plus 300 milligrams of Lamictal and 120 milligrams of Latuda. And sadly, I was at the highest dose of Latuda.
You can't go up higher on that.
And I tried 400 milligrams of Lamictal, so I felt that was cut. And then earlier, I asked the psychiatrist for 120 milligrams of Zymbalta, which is my antidepressant, and that didn't work out. So this was the story 2 weeks ago when I contacted my psychiatrist. My psychiatrist I'd normally talk to, not at the hospital, but my yearly psychiatrist. I told them that I wanted to try Zymbalta, 60 milligrams in the morning and 60 milligrams at night. So they added another 60, and I was getting restless, not sleeping, and feeling worse, and didn't help the attacks I was getting for SI, where I wanted to hang myself. Didn't stop that. So I talked to the psychiatrist, and he said, you either stay where you're at or you go to the hospital. And I was reluctant for a week, and sooner or later I was in the hospital.
So we'll fast forward a little bit. I think you described everything pretty well. So because of the COVID, you only could have one visitor. So what I did is I dropped my dad off, and he was there, and my brother suggested, why don't I just play the piano? So I did. So why don't you give a description of a little bit, quick recap of what you and Dad talked about, or anything about that for Christmas?
I don't know. It was just kind of like casual talk. We were talking about guns, and that girl that ended up getting, she ended up getting convicted. She was a police lady and got convicted for killing that guy. And Dad was saying that they only do that because they shoot to kill. And then we were talking about Christmas, and I said, "You guys celebrate Christmas?" And he said, "No, we're gonna celebrate next week." And I mentioned Kyle, like, what's he been up to? Why do you wake up so late? And he said
I did wake up really late, 1:30. Just a lot of stuff going. Just wanted to lay in bed, be lazy.
And it was just an hour talk. We didn't really, can't remember what else we talked about, but it was just casual talk.
All right, so around that time, I loaded a piano video, which is kind of weird. I wrote this: Travis Bale's Christmas hospitalization update. Travis is in good spirits. He had a cat psychiatrist, actually. They may possibly have to up the antipsychotic Latuda, despite him saying he is at the highest dose. Is that Lamictal or Latuda? I get confused. And apparently need his blood checked out, which he did not know about. Is that true?
Yeah, but they ended up telling me that it's only necessary if you have seizures.
Usually that procedure is for Lithium, which is a mood stabilizer. He will likely be released tomorrow, and we'll have to wait until January 3rd to see our psychiatrist. Thank you, everyone, for your support through this difficult time. Likely, my bro will make an update on himself soon. They allow one visitor, which is my dad, and my bro suggested to play the piano here at Regent's Hostel while I wait, which I did. And a few people clapped and gave me nice comments and said Merry Christmas for this piano session. Anyway, my brother also wanted me to forward. When I went to the gym, soon after we left, he wanted me to write a little update about himself, and he wrote,
from my brother, I had I had college transcriber for what I was feeling. I wasn't feeling that great.
This is really important for you to put it on Facebook for some reason.
I guess I wanted people to know how I was feeling. In general, I wrote this: 12/25/21, 6:45 p.m. When I start ruminating on Christmas Day, a lot of contemplation. I'm empty inside. My soul feels crushed. So bored. Only 4 patients here. I'm already tired of being in this place. I need to do something other than mope. My soul needs to be filled. I've been single too long. I need to find connections to my homeland. I don't want to stay in Minnesota anymore. I need to know my language. I'm asking God to present me an alternative through this life I lead. I'm obviously yearning for fulfillment. I have something more. I can't find it here. I need to be out there seeking advice and tips. What I seek is not at this hospital at home. Going to increase mood stabilize living till I don't feel sad, just empty. Support everywhere, but still empty inside. Going to try to discharge tomorrow at 1 p.m. Take care. Tomorrow call will read me the comments. I appreciate someone who called in for me to get help, but what I'm looking for is not at the hospital. Identity is lost. I'm confused, not suicidal, just seeking fulfillment. Lost but not unhappy, just satisfied, stable at the moment. Help me solve this puzzle piece of this missing puzzle piece. I love parents, but I want to go back to career to be with family, learn, live, love life again, Trav.
Okay, so this was at the night. Is there anything that happened after this? And
yeah, they started increasing my med, and lo and behold, I did wake up at like 2:30 in the morning. And from then on, I don't think this seriously is the feeling that I feel right now.
So do you think that it wasn't external stuff that you needed to do, like get a job, have a girlfriend? It's more internal.
It wasn't external. It was an internal mental health issue that was happening. It was probably needed a med adjustment. I was really reluctant going. So this is what I want Kyle to know, is that I was seeing things through rose-colored glasses. I haven't been in the hospital for 5 years. I haven't had a therapist.
What do you mean rose-colored glasses?
I haven't had a therapist for 4 years. I haven't had ILS worker or ARNS worker for 5 to 3 years and things like that. I haven't been in nurse for 6 years, and I was thinking, well, why the hell do I need to get help? I don't need help because I'm fine. I don't want to be in the hospital. It's been 5 years. I want it to continue that way. But then lo and behold, when I took the medication and I was more willing and less reluctant, I'm glad I have a therapist now, and I'm glad I actually had the med increase from Lamictal 300 to Lamictal 350. I first thought it wouldn't work and made me more depressed, but lo and behold, as I stated before, it's masking all my problems. I don't have to give a care, and largely that feels a lot better and requires less work.
But do you feel like it is
changing my entire life around?
Do you feel like it is really masking, but in reality you're just bipolar, the chemical issues in your brain, and you don't have control over it, or do you?
Well, I talked to the therapist the next day before I was discharged, and I told her that, you know, I wrote this huge confrontation. I actually wrote this huge thing for.
Should I read it? I didn't even know you wrote it. I didn't wonder what you said. So anyways, I wrote this huge thing from the therapist that was there. I had a lot on my mind regarding my relationship. So this is what I wrote. Why am I suicidal? I fell in love with a native Korean woman, but my parents said no, I could not marry her. So now I have a lot of regrets because I'm unhappy. At that time, I thought it was okay to let her go. I'm a professional artist and musician, so I thought I could feel fulfilled following my passions. I made $4,000 as a first-time artist this year, plus $1,200. 319 is on insurance coverage. I live with dad and bro. Dad is disabled and we are his caretaker. We maybe got 20 to 40 hours at 18 an hour helping him. Our rent is typically $550 to $650, so we save $300 to $400 a month. I have savings up to. My dad says he will give the 3-story house to Kyle and I, and he says that I cannot move out unless I work 2 years to rent a place. When Joanne lived here, it was difficult. She lived like she lived here, but it made my bro mad that she took his closet and kicked him out of the bedroom. So he felt she was a bad person and did not want her living here. I only knew her online for a month, and then she came to live with my dad and brother. Kyle and I are both on disability. I've had 8 hospitalizations on Medicare and medical assistance. I feel I need to stay on it because of 100% insurance coverage, and my large hospital bill is expensive and meds are $1,600 a month. I am interested in dating native Korean women because I feel more attracted to my homeland. I figured we can learn each other's language and grow from each other's culture. Joanne did not work but was willing to live here under my specific circumstances. But even as recently as yesterday, or Dad said that he did not like Joanne because she could not provide. Before he said that she did not work. Dad said I need someone who can provide, but I barely make minimum wage, but I still feel I can support her. It may take sacrificing my money, but better than getting SI saying I want to kill myself and not be here. Imagine wanting to have a prestigious job. It would be a huge risk to move her life to America. Dad complained that she could not work, but she did not even have her citizenship or green card, so how could she work here? My dad blames her, saying she may also have bipolar disorder. Till this day, he believes she was not right for me, but I have been single 6 years and I cannot find anybody, and I've really been trying. I try to distract myself with art, music, and fitness, but at 2 or 4 in the morning, and my regret is I did not convince my ex to stay and convince my parents. I am following my dreams, but I want someone there to be with me. My parents will not be there forever, and Kyle will want his own independence. People say beauty is skin deep, but I am very particular on who I date. People may say I should move to Korea, but I have never worked full time, and if I get ill, I need hospitalization coverage and insurance to cover my meds. I am scared to leave my... I am scared to leave my situation
Dad needs me, rabbits need me, my airbrush equipment, grand piano, and computer equipment is all there. How will a tiny apartment fill my needs? Like I said, Joanne was willing to accept my circumstances. No one wants a disabled guy with bipolar disorder living in their dad's basement. I'm fine with my situation routine. I work out 2 hours, 5 days a week, work on cat stuff, music, and art. Ideally, I need someone to live with me here. To be honest, I do not mind my lifestyle, but based on my disability and reasoning, I am more secure here, but that extra responsibility of having a relationship and seeing my situation makes me feel I'm stuck being single till dad dies. This is why I'm hopeless and unhappy with my situation. I'm on the highest dose of antipsychotic and one more dose away being on the highest dose of my antidepressant and stabilizer. I have a severe debilitating illness, but I still want a partner. I'm 35 in January and single 6 years, never married, no kids, and I feel stuck and moping. So that's about,
Why'd you stop there?
because I think that's like it right. So that's it.
So what did the therapist say about it?
In the end, she thought that why didn't I move with my mom, or why don't you just do radical acceptance? And that's kind of what she left it as.
What's your opinion now?
Didn't really help that much, but at least I was able to write what I felt and was able to have someone listen to it.
So lo and behold, describe when you're discharged and what happened, and then we'll describe a little bit more about your mood and the current situation, how you feel now.
I was discharged maybe around 2. My mom picked me up and she told me to stay there because my dad didn't want my aunt, which was his sister, to know that I was in the hospital because it might freak her out or whatever. But before then, it was a pretty simple day. I just told the psychiatrist I'm ready to leave. He was okay with that. I told my mom, and for a while I was just sitting there waiting to get discharged because I told the psychiatrist that the Lamictal increase of 50 milligrams was definitely helping. I did wake up, but I didn't wake up feeling suicidal. I definitely did feel like I wanted to go home because even one day there, I was very, very bored.
Describe what it's like staring at the 4 walls there versus
They
the
do
4
have
walls
some
here.
activities, but since it's the holiday, really, there was nothing really to do besides work out, and I wasn't interested in reading. I couldn't focus on the way to do drawings because they didn't have a printer for me to print anything. I was able to showcase my work to the OT lady, but other than
How
that...
can you do that if you don't have your phone?
They have a computer there in the art room.
Since when?
They always did. There's the OT room that they
So
have.
you can go on any website?
Pretty much.
I didn't know that.
I couldn't go
Do you
onto
have
my
to-
website,
Do they have to watch you?
Yeah.
So the person has to watch you while you go on there? That's
Yeah.
kind of I didn't realize they had computers. I thought they didn't allow you that. So you can't go on Facebook?
I didn't go on Facebook, but I showed her my Instagram. I couldn't log into my website, though, for some reason.
What'd you say?
Uh,
So
she liked it. I just showed her.
TrasBales.com doesn't work?
Nope. I don't
So
know why.
anyway, you got discharged. He came home. I showed him the rabbits. I think we pretty much described all of it. I showed him Wilfred, and throughout
Right.
that day, he was fine. So
Maybe you should showcase what I wrote when I got home.
which one is it? This one?
First day out of hospital, I can let my mind relax in peace. No dread, regret, loneliness, or SI. I was more ill than well and not even realize it. New Year's countdown.
All right, so let's talk about your current mood now. What do you mean by rose-colored glasses? I'm confused.
Imagine this. You are not in the hospital for 5 years. You haven't been in the IRTs for 6 years. You haven't had a partial hospitalizations for almost 6.5 years. You haven't had seen a psychiatrist for 2 years, and the last one was
So you think you're
teleconference a
fine.
year. I haven't had a therapist for 4 years, so you want to think that, hey, things are doing fine.
Oh.
Whatever I'm experiencing is just a mishap. And I took that the wrong step, and I admit that I was wearing rose-colored glasses because I didn't want to admit that anything was wrong, and I think that clearly was the mistake after looking back and trying the increased dose, that things definitely were wrong. If I am obsessing, see, this isn't one little thing where I felt like this girl was
To take it out of your...
was some type of little thing that meant something to me. She was like everything, and I was willing to commit suicide because I wasn't with this girl. So right there, you know there's something wrong. So with that speaking, I made a terrible mistake by not seeing things clearly, by not gauging things clearly. I should have told Dad right away that I wasn't feeling good. I told him I was empty, and he said it's family. He
Says, "Dude, I
he
did
will
give you a
never
hug."
get the fact that I gave up a girl that I really cared about. He will never give up. He will never admit to the fact that I wanted a native Korean, someone where I could like be felt towards more towards Korea and my homeland, and I feel more interested in dating a Korean person from Korea, or the fact that I could share culture, maybe share the Korean language, learn the language, and involve myself with Korean and American culture, which is something I honestly look forward to. And I'm sure my family would gauge on the fact that they might like having me marry a native Korean person. I don't know, but that was my thought
I even
process.
suggested that I'll stay here and take care of Dad, and you go out there and live yourself. That's how bad it got, but
I'm not thinking that way anymore.
So now write this from all those lessons learned for people that are in the same cycle. What would you do differently, and what's your advice? So
Guys,
our channel is about promoting and getting help. Even I had suicidal ideation. Maybe I should have went to the hospital. I don't know. But I guess it never got that bad. It pushed me to get a therapist, which is his therapist now. And I feel like why I was suicidal is because someone kind of defamed the CAD story stuff, so I felt like I had to give it all up. Wake up early, which I'm not. I'm a second shifter guy. It's just something that works with me, even though there's not as much jobs. I mean, I held good second shift jobs, even got promoted in some. So with that said, it felt like a death of an ego, and with suicide, it's hard to explain. It's like this itchy feeling that you just don't want to be here, that something, you just feel terrible, that you're stuck in your body and trapped, and you can't do anything about it. So when I had to let go of that ego stuff of again, it was kind of similar to Travis, where I didn't want to work on my videos. I hated the weekends. I didn't want to be here. I usually felt terrible, so I felt like I had to make this drastic change, even if it meant my death, to do something. Luckily, I didn't, and probably once I had snapped out of it, I mean, there's some days that are kind of bad, but then there's primarily most of the days they're okay, they're stable. We just go to the gym, and I've been working on videos. But with my brother, it was quite bad. And what is your advice, and what would you do differently for those people that are also struggling even still after the holidays? What would you do and tell them?
If it gets to the point where police come at all, please make a consideration that maybe you do need to get help. Now, the first time where I held a gun to my face, maybe it wasn't noteworthy of going to the hospital.
That wasn't a real gun, that was a drawing.
Or I did a drawing of me pointing an illustration to his face, and people took that wrongly. But anyways, if you know in your gut or your intuition that you are going to take your life, whether people believe you or not, please take it in consideration of at least getting yourself to talk to someone about it, whether it's family, friends, the suicide hotline, or any type of county worker that you are able to contact with. Or even if you find friends on Facebook, some are very toxic, but for me, my way of expressing myself is through Facebook, and I definitely do posts everything how I feel, good, bad, in between. So it's kind of nice, the fact that I do have people to support me.
I want to mention there's a lot of huge support. I at least got like over 100 likes for a lot of the stuff along with my brother. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's a difficult time, but for some reason the Facebook algorithms were just showing up. But anyway, it was a holiday, so I didn't feel comfortable reaching out to people, even though it was kind of difficult. I didn't want to bug them, especially on Christmas. But
I don't know,
some people were a little upset. What?
Some friend got mad.
Yeah, because I didn't do that. Because I thought she just wanted to be left alone. I didn't want to bug her, but I guess it just proves that the people that still stay in our life are the ones that care. So
the 3 people that reached out to me, a guy from Minnesota, he's a CAD. Brooke Bender, she's a CAD from Iowa. She was actually the first person to reach out to me. And Kaz, who is a Japanese
bunch of people
person.
did, didn't they?
3 people that literally reached out to me that night. And there's plenty of people in the comments. So appreciate your comments, support, and helping me get through this during hard times.
So I guess in the end, things are a lot better, you'd say. And
Much
I
better.
guess some of those sentiments that you share, I guess, what are your goals now? So I guess my goal is, I told Travis, and this is what I want to end it off with, you guys. It's a really important post. I always associate achievement with self-worth, but obviously it's not always true, especially when it got this bad. So even with my brother, I feel like even if he improves himself, deep down it shouldn't matter. So I was looking up when to give it up the dream, because deep down I do care about CAD stories, I care about my YouTube channel, but in the end I think what makes me truly happy is the happiness of my own family members, and I think we all share that same sentiment. That's probably the most important. We want our loved ones to be happy. So I found this was good advice, and this is how we'll end it. The world might have made you believe that the only way to achieve success is to keep pushing on, no matter how hard the goal is or how much the process is making you suffer. But the severe dissatisfaction pursuing unattainable goals has been linked to poor mental health, even self-harm and suicide. You're here on this planet for a limited time. Make the most of it. When a project is no longer working for you, learn to let go. Build an alternative and direct your time and energy towards seeing it grow. Your self-worth is not defined by how hard you can work. At the end of the day, happiness and fulfillment should be your goals and not the measure of how you can torture yourself to meet some invisible social standards. Don't fall into that trap. Give up when things no longer work for you. The alternative will be worth it. Trust the science behind it. So basically, I think rather than me putting each other down or putting my brother down about him not doing this and that, I'm just pretty much just letting him do whatever he wants. So if he's happy with the situation, maybe in the end he just felt obligated to find a girlfriend, not because of that, but he felt like he had to change the situation, and that was kind of making him stressed out about it. But anyway,
Or the loneliness was making me think I need a relationship, when in reality it was a mental bipolar.
yeah, so for the most part, bipolar is a serious chemical dependence disease. You can't just tell someone to snap out of it. I mean, even my brother worked, he still had the suicidal ideations. My mom had to coach him through it during
Are you talking about 2015?
yeah, during when he was having issues when he was a janitor. But in the end, it's still about balance. It's still sometimes good to keep yourself occupied to an extent, but also deep down, it's about just loving and accepting yourself of who you are and trust the process and what you are now. It's not about your future self or their past self.
I don't think it's
about now.
I don't think it's harmful for me to bitch on Facebook. In fact, I think it's a blessing because people do show their concerns when things get bad, and they do have enough concern to call the cops, which is not something I look forward to. I'm sure my brother and dad don't, but in the end, it was definitely worth it because I did get to the hospital, had a med change, which should have happened earlier, and all the bitching pretty much has come to a standstill, hopefully. But I definitely do feel better. I'm not bitching about loneliness, regret, not much about isolation. I'm not feeling lonely. And I think that's important because anyone can feel alone, but if you feel lonely, that's when things become really, really toxic. Hopefully, meds can definitely change the way you feel. And for me, meds definitely help me to get to a better place, especially when they do work.
Do you think it's a lack of connection and loneliness that actually causes suicide, not depression or mental health?
No, I think mental health defines your in and outs because
so it's a chemical
nothing
thing that
changed. I mean, I have the same friends, the same situation. It just the med change happened, and I'm feeling so much better.
And we went to church too, and we kept busy, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Someone suggested that we should do nice things and just volunteer, but maybe we'll do that. But I don't know. Deep down, it's a chemical issue. Meds, I don't believe fully mask it. It's probably good to have a balance of doing what you enjoy, plus having meds that keep you in balance. So that's pretty much the lesson here. I mean, like I said, I talked to someone. I asked her, "How come your holidays were so good? And how come you're doing so much better?" I said, do you think it's?" And I asked why, and she said it's probably the meds, and it's probably the same story with my brother. Maybe one day I might have to go up on it, so I don't feel that bad. Granted, I don't really get to that point of self-harm, but it's another option. So is there any other last words for people that are struggling, and aside from just having them accept themselves, love themselves of who they are, is there any things you want to note to our viewers, or are we good?
Take a balanced perspective, guys. If you are suicidal and you do have plans of harming yourself, and you do have these very intense thoughts over a period of time, maybe a month or so like me, well, take in consideration to go to the hospital, take in consideration to at least consult your psychiatrist that you do need a med change, and most importantly, contact someone when you do not feel very good. If you need to contact the suicide hotline, that is an option, or a close friend or family member that you can trust.
So right now, the cops gave us a Washington County crisis center line, which hopefully my brother will use. I will use a number. So I'm pretty sure a lot of counties, hopefully your counties may have it, but there should be mobile counties that will either go to you or talk to you on the phone, and it's just not just a national suicide helpline. It's maybe you have some locals, so I would look into that at your on your county service government webpage or anything like that. So again, I guess I'm glad my brother's here. I think in the end, a lot of my happiness is based off him, and if he's good, I'm good. So we're gonna keep on going. Is there any other Do you have goals right now? So
Like I
just getting
said
better,
before,
or what do you
guys,
want now?
my video of Life is Meaningless, I Want to Die, the
no
most
longer-
negative video used to have 5,000 views or more. However, another video, Life is Meaningless, I Want to Die, that takes a more positive perspective, ends up surpassing a couple views, and I expect this other one, the more positive view on Life is Meaningful, to be more important than Life is Meaningless. I do post good and bad and in between, so I want you guys to know that I'm fully real, legit, and speaks honest truth.
So at this
So it's good to know that things are looking up. I have 347 subscribers. I'm hoping for 400 by July next year. So stay tuned for that. I
So-
want to congratulate Kyle for getting 4,000 watch time hours on his survey comp video.
we'll do another video on that
And-
separately for my channel.
Yeah, guys, please like-
servercomptech.com.
Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button if you are interested in future videos.
So one last thing I wanted to ask you: do you feel like life is meaningless right now? And what are the three things that you feel like is giving you meaning right now? Probably your health, or
I think the number one thing that's giving me right now is the fact that I went to get help. I had a med adjustment. I'm gauging that med adjustment. I'm trying to take more proactive steps to focus on more positive things. But yeah, the medication definitely helped. So I don't know how else to second rate that, but for me, medications are the one thing that I go to if things get really, really bad. It just so happened the psychiatrist at the time didn't want to take any more risks to change my meds, since I already made a choice to increase the antidepressant, which sadly didn't work, but I'm glad the mood stabilizer worked. Guys, hang in there. You'll be at a point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, that hopefully you make the better decisions in your life. Innate action is just as bad as not taking is taking negative action, because you have to realize that you got to get the ball rolling, got to have inertia, action and action. Just keep going, guys.
So,
stay faithful. Stay
again,
hopeful.
thanks again, guys. This is a great informative video, maybe one of our best, that I hopefully excels and exceeds and helps a lot of other people, because in the end, we live through it. So if you like this video, please comment, share, like, and subscribe and hit the bell button for future updates. You'll likely see a lot more videos from us, and we're gaining the traction, the momentum to educate other people with mental health issues, spread awareness, and help them through difficult times. We appreciate you being with us, you guys.
Please send your thoughts, comments to www.beyondbipolarblog.com. Friends and family would appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, bye.